My name is Zain Ishaq. I'm the CEO at dotCMS. We're glad to have you join this session and hope you're learning and connecting with others in dotConnect today. We are going to be talking about how AI impacts the content lifecycle in this session. Obviously, being very close to marketing teams, we at dotCMS have been thinking about this topic. And we also understand that it's still nascent. I think every individual is grappling with this topic in their own right. So we wanted to spend some time talking about this with two great guests I have here. We have Thomas Flechet, who is the Global Head of Digital Marketing at Bodify, responsible for content strategy and positioning with a focus on search and AI. And we have Mallory Mulan, a marketing leader in B2B tech, currently head of marketing at Gitbook. Before we dive in, maybe Mallory and Toma, would you like to say a few words to maybe introduce yourselves and perhaps tell us one exciting, interesting thing that you're currently working on within your marketing roles? We'll start with you, Mallory.
So I'm Mallory Mullen. I currently am head of marketing at Gitbook, like Zane said. Been in marketing about 13 years, always B2B, a lot of SaaS, mostly startups, so usually small teams, various budget sizes. You all know the pains with everything. Right now at Gitbook, I lead a team of about 4 people, and while we aren't doing traditional marketing tech as far as content, we are all about docs. So that's going to be a lot of the angles that I come from today. And interesting fact about what we're working on right now, we've had a major launch last week where we launched a ton of new things that aren't necessarily AI focused of, writing documentation for people, but are changing the way that you document technical knowledge across your teams. So, check it out. Yeah.
Super, thank you, Mallory. Over to you, Thomas.
Hi everyone. Thomas Fisher here. You might hear a little accent. I'm French. I came to New York 5 years ago, based out of New York. I've been in the marketing industry for a decade now as well. At Botify, specifically for 8 years, we are selling a SEO platform for enterprise companies, and as such, as the head of digital marketing, I had the content strategy and also all our communications. Digital communications. An interesting project we're working on is that the search industry is going through a big of a shift right now because of AI or thanks to AI, depending on how you want to see it. And so we're working a lot on our repositioning, on how we can help our customers really take care of their visibility online and ours as well. And so one of the projects that we're working on is scaling our content through AI and how we can produce great content at scale.
Thank you, Thomas. Well, that's a good segue, I guess, in the first topic that we wanted to dive in is how do we use AI in the creative aspects of your, I guess, respective roles. And maybe start by telling us what is the focus, for your marketing team in terms of what kind of content you're producing on a day-to-day basis, whether that's blogs or website copy or thought leadership. So maybe this time we'll start with you, Thomas.
Our content strategy is very much focused on blog and producing blog. Then we balance that between having practitioner blog posts that gives great insight to our practitioner audience with more like thought leadership content that helps executives and others to really grasp and understand what's coming and what's the next phase of search. And then, also website copy, PR, and we are now also looking into creating more long form content. We're working on a report, for instance, that's going to be like a bigger lead gen, I guess, content.
Before we dive in deeper, Mallory, could you share, what pieces of content or what kinds of content do you create the most on a day-to-day basis?
For us, it is blogs, similar to Ma. We do a lot of blog content. Marketing at Gitbook is pretty new. So in the last year, we had a lot of product-focused content. This year, we've been kind of doing more educational content for our personas, so long form, guides, tutorials, things like that, in written blogs, but also video tutorials. And like I said, we're a docs platform, so a lot of documentation. So making sure people can understand our product, putting slightly different tutorials in those docs. We don't do PR as much, so a lot of our stuff is also sharing content on GitHub or on other socials like Twitter. I refuse to call it X, Twitter, LinkedIn, and also a lot of email and in-app within the product. So we're very product focused.
Yeah, I think you're right. That's something I didn't mention, but there's also communicating about all the content that we produce, right? And we also do like email, socials, and that kind of content, that like shorter content, but obviously super important as well.
Fair to say, I think we've covered the entire spectrum between you two of all the kinds of content there can be produced, which is interesting. So maybe Mallory, we'll start with you this time. Which kinds of content are you using AI to either assist or lead? Maybe tell us a little bit more about that.
Yeah, so I wouldn't say we use AI to create content per se. I'll start with that. We use it to help people who create content within the company. So it's more of an assistant to us. So we'll use that for like blog ideas based off of our content strategy and, give whatever AI system we're using a bit more information what that looks like. Feed it information on our personas to help maybe refine that a bit and then build content ideas out around that. But then it's a lot of helping us once we have long form content. And long form for us isn't really like an ebook or something. It's more of like a really long educational guide in the form of a blog or doc. We use that to then turn it into either, social media posts or create a base template for an email that we still, review ourselves and update that and then launch it. We don't just take it from the AI straight and launch it because that's insane. Or a GitHub post, things like that. So that's more of how we utilize AI in content. And then sometimes, we'll test out things like if we're posting on, say, LinkedIn and they have their own edit this post with AI, we'll try it out and see. It hasn't really worked that great most of the time. You still really have to either fix it or edit it even more heavily. But we'll play around with different things that other tools produce too.
That is very interesting because a lot of marketers kind of think of AI in assisting with content creation because of what they say like a white page problem, which is it's difficult to start, but once you have the first draft, it's very easy. Not easy, but I guess it's more efficient to improve upon the first draft. And it seems like you have the entire exact opposite approach where you load it with your content, either it's short or long form, or you're asking for summaries or bullet points and social media posts. So that's very interesting. Soma, what about you?
Yeah, I mean, I totally agree with you, Mallory and Zen here. Like, I think it's great to at the beginning and at the end of the process of content creation. We definitely use it for whether it's like finding the blank page and coming up with ideas, but also like we have so much discussions within the company that are recording through Zoom webinars or Zoom meetings or else. We use AIs to help us summarize those conversations into bullet points that we can then use it to direct our content strategy or like think of different topics that we want to talk about. So that's really like a very powerful way of getting information from subject matter expert that we have internally, turn that into a few bullet points that can then be turned into an actual content. So at kind of the beginning of the process, and then at the end of the process, for us, we use it. We've used it a couple of times to summarize an article that we wrote, even though we already have it summarized in some ways at the beginning, but we re-summarize kind of with the AI to help us like for specific use cases, like for drafting an email, for instance, or for drafting a social post. Obviously, we then have like a review and look at it from a critical standpoint to see where we can make that better and where there's an accuracy in that summarization. But that helps speeding up that creation. I have an anecdote actually about that I did that recently on a post that we published on the website, and I wanted to like go quickly find a way to spin that up into an email, and I asked the AI to summarize the article, and then all of a sudden it started summarizing the article with a bunch of different URLs from our website and like putting more information in it. So that's just to give an example of the ways that you can't just put what you want to do in AI and ask them to do it and just not review it. Like you do have to review it to make sure that you're getting what you want out of it. And so in the end, I've changed the strategy, and I've actually copy pasted the content that I wanted into ChatGPT to summarize it instead of GRL, and that worked better. But just the little things, details when you use AI that you need to be careful of, not to trust it for too easily.
That's very interesting. Um, just to follow on, maybe first to you, Toma, and Mary, I would love to hear your opinion on this too. It seems like both of you are creating a fair bit of technical content versus perhaps not so technical content. So just curious if there's kind of any distinction either in the quality of the output between these two different kinds of content, or whether your reliance on one over the other is different. Toma, we'll start with you.
Um, that's a good question. There's definitely no difference in terms of the quality that we want to put into our content. Working in an SEO company, like I can tell you that making sure that your content is hyper quality is extremely important if you want to be ranked and if you want to be visible on search. So there's definitely not a like we put the same effort in terms of creating quality content, whether it's for practitioners or execs. Then the subjects in itself. Do we use more or less AI on one or the other? I would say that since we are summarizing a lot of our conversation with subject matter experts internally, like we do use AI for that. And so this helps us have like bullet points, which is very useful for very key insights and practitioner insights for our practitioner audience. The thought leadership aspect, since it's more new and it's aspirational and like kind of visionary, we tend to, I guess, use that a bit less and really go through the discussion with internally and like have human basically review the content and see like, oh, does that make sense? Does it how we want to position ourselves and so on and so forth. So in that sense, I would say maybe. Yeah.
Uh, Mallory, anything to add or share? Your approach. I know you said you already are loading it with content and then getting summaries and bullet points and social posts out of it. But wondering if you differentiate between technical and non-technical content.
I mean, not to be cheesy sounding, but I mean, all of our content is very technical because our technical, I can't speak English, because our target audience are like technical writers, developers, product people. So it is very, people that work heavily within code or technical products. So yeah, depending how you look at it, we always have technical content. But the process that I said earlier is pretty much the same. It's just we use AI sometimes more so on the things that I wouldn't say are less quality or lower quality, but are the easy tasks as a marketing. So like if I have to do a PPC campaign, you guys know the struggle of like trying to write those tiny character headlines and things like that. So you can use AI to really strip that out of a really long piece of content that's technical and keeps the point. Or if we need to, as a marketing team, where some of us are more technical than others, understand the technical things we're trying to write about, AI can educate us sometimes on it before we go and bug like the CTO or, an engineer about it, and then put that in the content and then still have the person review it. So it's little bits like that we use it for, which I don't think is maybe a use case everyone uses it for. But that's how we kind of do it. But we still obviously want the quality to always be awesome.
Got it.
Yeah, and to piggyback on what you just said on like the smaller pieces of content, something that we do as well, I think is super useful is that and help us because it helped us very much. We just went through a site migration earlier this year, and so we had to redo our entire like title tags and H1 tags, and we by doing this we realized we had a lot of duplicates, titles, and so on and so forth, and so something that really helped us is pushing those pages through AI and have AI come up with a bunch of titles and H1 tags that we would then put into the meta tags of the setting of the page, and that really helped us gain a lot of time. Obviously, then we went through each row of the spreadsheet, making sure that it was making sense and there wasn't too much duplicate, but it avoided us to have to go through all like content from 2020 or 2019 or 2021. I mean, like all content, reread what we had written and make sure that the title and come up with the title. That was done by AI, and that was a huge time saver.
I know that's a great use case actually. Just maybe, can you call it like cleaning data or structuring unstructured data and making it useful? Just maybe one more follow-up on the content creation piece. It sounds like AI is more impactful or more reliable, I would say, for short-form content. But I'm wondering, again, short form, long form, and then maybe, I guess, different types of content in terms of video. Mallory, you mentioned you have a bit of video content that you're producing too. Just wondering, is it fair to say that short form is where we are, long form maybe slightly future forward once you can maybe train your models better and they have more data and information, and then what about video? Are we there yet, or is it going to be a while before you rely on completely AI, either created videos or edited videos? Manny, we'll start with you.
Yeah, I don't know if I'd rely on AI to create any of that kind of stuff just yet. But where it's been great is using it to kind of create the outline for the video of like what we want to show and the storyboard. Or vice versa, maybe not a technically marketing video, but we obviously have sales teams who record calls or things like that. And Tama, I know you mentioned this previously, but using the summary from the calls to then inform any kind of marketing materials or video outlines and things like that for what we're working on next. So I'd say it's more that way. I wouldn't really have it create like, a really cute designed show reel or anything for us. But hopefully in the future, I think that would be great.
Yeah. Toma, anything to add there?
No, yeah, I agree. I think today the short form content is what's the more accessible and easiest to work with AI with. I think there's the way, and something that I'm starting to work on is to create more longer content. If you train a model with your brand and tone and voice, sorry, and with your brand guideline and so on, I think there's a lot to do there. I haven't really explored that yet, but yeah, I think then you need to have like a real like customized model for your own brand or your own company that is able to pick up on how you want to position yourself, how you want to talk about something, what kind of vocabulary and language you want to use.
Yeah. Maybe just to follow up on that, do you currently see the models that you're working on getting smarter? Like, are they being fine-tuned as you go? Or do you have like an approach or a strategy there? Um, Either, as you said, loading your tone of voice to the model, or your historic data or content, so it's kind of more attuned, I guess.
I mean, today I don't we don't use our own model, if I'm being completely honest. So like that's something I'm looking into. I see it getting smarter by the different models that have been released throughout the year, for sure. But for now, we like in terms of like being able to pick up on our tone and voice. No, not really. Right now, we still very much have to go through the content and add our branding.
Got it. Um, Next, I wanted to maybe ask um, both of you what you perceive to be the next kind of step in your journey with AI adoption. I know we touched upon different elements here, from short term to medium term perspective, but anything that comes to mind where either it's an aspiration or a wish list, would be curious to hear. Mallory, let's start with you.
I mean, there's quite a few. I'd like to kind of be more similar to Tama and test out longer form creation from AI and see how that works and test different models. From what I have tested, not long form, but say medium form, giving it a ton of rules, not just a brief, but saying do not do this, 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 and this, and keep my tone of voice this. Or like a lot of times if I have something I paste and I say do not edit what's here, optimize it if it's needed, and it will add like an impactful statement or something, but do not change it. That works well. So things like that. And then, yeah, like you mentioned earlier, I think using it to do more creative elements. So maybe create some actual ads for us as part of our campaigns alongside the messaging that we use from long form content, or building the videos for us and things like that. I'm a little too skeptical of where we're at right now with AI to utilize a lot of those things, but I'd be willing to test it out if companies are making them.
Very interesting. Toma, anything? to add?
Yeah, I mean, same. I mean, like what I just said in terms of working on customizing models and getting it in a place where they capture our branding better. That's something I really want to get to because ultimately I'm not looking into longer form content right now. My first step is more than scaling our like email production, social production, and so on, so that we can focus on quality content more and that we don't get bugged with other shorter form content. The other place, it's not necessarily related to content itself, but still because it's related to performance and the performance of the content. Like something that's more aspirational at this point, but something I have a lot of wishes on is how it is measuring the performance of the content and more specifically the attribution model. We all know in by working in marketing or being close relationship with marketers, that attribution models has always been an issue, and like it's hard to get recognition for the work that you do when it's not attributed to revenue. And so that's something that aspirationally that I'm looking forward to.
Yeah, I think when I said wish list, attribution
Yeah,
had to show up. Mary,
exactly.
just wanted to go back from your previous comments. It sounds like you've gotten um, pretty smart about prompting. Like, just curious, maybe share how your journey has been. Is there any kind of resources you can share with the audience, and also some tools that you currently use
Yeah.
for content creation?
Yeah, I mean, prompting, I wouldn't say I'm, you know, somebody to copy necessarily on it, but I just play around with it. So I don't think, I'll start with this, a lot of the templates that you see on LinkedIn from people who are like pushing it down your throat, and essentially, a lot of those don't really work, at least for not from what I've seen. So it's more so starting out with a vague description of what I need and seeing if the AI can produce it. Usually it's not the case, it needs some more fine tuning. So then I start setting rules. So if I'm doing, like last week, for example, for our launch, we have really long content with a lot of things in one post that we were launching. And I said, okay, here's our blog post. I pasted in, the URLs don't really work. Pasted in the whole content. And I said, turn all these points in here into individual tweets and one giant summary tweet. Do not use hashtags because it goes crazy with hashtags. Include emojis, things like that, and keep to the tone of voice of the article. And that worked really well. And mostly I tested out with ChatGPT, but I've done the same, like I said, with like LinkedIn's automatic AI editing. You can't really set a brief in that, but I tested it with what ChatGPT gave me to see if it could make it better. I was unimpressed, but some tools might be better for optimizing what you already have if you don't feel like putting it into multiple sources. So that's my advice: is just have fun with it, give it rules, and don't just expect it on the first go to create the best thing. It doesn't mean it didn't work. It just means you need to get a little bit better about what you're asking.
That's great. No, the negative prompting, if I may call it that. That's this is the first time I'm hearing it. It sounds like AI knows what not to do. Toma, anything to add or share?
No, honestly, like I totally agree with Mallory. I mean, being prescriptive is important. Something that I learned, and I mean, I think we all learned from the beginning of this, is that having a conversation, actually, even how weird it is, it's good. Like it doesn't come off good the first time, but like by refining as you converse with the AI, usually works pretty well for me. And yeah, then a set of rules, and that's why also, like I was talking about, wanting to customize our own model and create GPTs and so on, is because I feel like I'm repeating the same thing over and over a lot of time when I'm talking to an AI, and so I'd like to like stop having to repeat myself, and that's why creating our own models, and that they know they are with a set number of rules, I think would be useful.
Yeah,
But yeah.
great.
Another, just one thing, but for any marketers that are thinking of using AI to create more fun, punny content, I did have a go for some of the, so I wasn't going to post it. I just was curious because it was like 11 p.m. But trying to get it to write in like Gen Z slang or things like that, it doesn't work. So don't try and use it that creatively just yet. Just, try and keep it to normal, I guess, professional puns that you come up with yourself. But I thought that was interesting because you'd think it would be able to with the amount of like younger people using it, but no.
Yeah, I think
Interesting.
that's just funny because I feel like when creating content or like optimizing your content with AI, you're better off asking the AI to be mild or like neutral rather than doing anything else, because then it goes very easily crazy on some lingo and you don't understand what you're talking about anymore, and it becomes very crazy funny but crazy.
Yeah.
So yeah, and what I have found some success with is also like when asking for brand of a tone or something, is saying like write that like something. I do use it a lot for translation, for instance, because it's actually pretty good at translating. And usually, if I don't put like from English to French or French to English, when if I don't put like as a French speaker or as an English speaker, I'm gonna get very widely different results if I put that or not.
Super interesting. I know a couple of things were mentioned outside of content creation, right? Toma, you mentioned measurement and attribution, and you just mentioned translation as well. Curious how you guys are using AI in maybe every step of your content lifecycle or outside in your other kind of you know responsibilities outside of content creation. So yeah, maybe just share some of the other ways that you're using AI in your workflows. Mallory, we'll start with you.
Sure. I mean, one of the ways that I use it is not necessarily to create like a marketing strategy. Again, I think that should be a person, but to do a lot of research. So it's really actually great for competitor research because I don't know about you guys, but we have a new competitor every week. People are just coming out of the woods. So to understand what they're doing, their background, if they have any, sometimes you can even get as granular as like what they're doing in marketing and things like that. So it's great to understand that without having to go and find all the different websites with all the information like everywhere. And then similar for partner marketing or customer marketing, even get a better understanding of some of your champion users to go out and be a bit more personal and talking to them. So that's kind of what we're doing that. And then that can inform the content that we produce, and it does, which is really great. Other than that, I mean, like I said, I'm a small team with 4 people in marketing. So I'm also the only person in North America. My whole company is remote in Europe and Asia. So sometimes if I'm still working in the afternoon and they're offline, I'll brainstorm with AI rather than trying to bug somebody on Slack. So just saying like, this is what I'm trying to do. This is the ideas. And it is pretty great about coming up with like similar ideas that it's seen if you put in like, again, some, what'd you call it, negative rules or whatever,
Prompting.
saying, yeah,
Negative prompting.
you can, yeah, you can put in things like that and actually help it or have it help you come up with like a campaign structure that might be different to what you're originally thinking to make it a bit better. So that's more of
Uh,
how we use it.
just before we go to Toma, I'm just curious. You mentioned you do use it to create different kinds of content for, I guess, different personas. Maybe just to elaborate a little more, if it is helping you with like personalization, and what does that mean to you, and how do you envision AI kind of helping support that, either today or future forward?
Yeah, I mean, a lot of the research I've done has helped with that. I haven't found any tools that are great so far for like for ABM campaigns, really personalizing a whole landing page or something for a target account. There are those that do them. I still find you need a little bit more of a manual touch to it. I wouldn't just trust it to roll with it. And the same for dynamic content. We're actually building dynamic content for docs, which is pretty cool. So we're doing a lot of research as a company. And when people go to like somebody's documentation, it can understand, okay, this is, maybe an engineer versus a product person and what they each need, rather than just them going through everything. So I think that's more of the future, and that's something we're working towards. And I think a lot of companies are working on dynamic models. But I wouldn't say I've seen any company that's like really killing it yet.
Got it. Toma, any areas outside of content creation you're using AI?
Yeah, I mean, like I said, like the summarization is big. I mean, it's really good at doing this, and that's the main use case that I have when it comes to not creating the content itself, but just thinking of what we want to write about, and how we can also dice a topic in terms of in multiple different subjects. There's also smaller things that I use it for, and it's not necessarily content created, but I said like translation, honestly, make it, it's a gain of time that is really big. I also use it for like a very small task, which is finding synonyms sometimes, because I can go in Synonymo, I can go on Thesaurus, I think is the website, but I feel like actually ChatGPT is really good at giving you synonyms that are good in the context that you're writing. So like sharing the paragraph and like saying that you want to change that word to another thing, or like rephrase one sentence because it doesn't come up like really like you want, and then the AI will give you like a bunch of different options, and then you can mix and match those options or like come up with something else. But it gives you like a few other ways of saying the same ideas, and I like that. And I use that way. Um, yeah, and then also sometimes what I would do is like get feedback on either my strategy or like what I want to do, or even sometimes just the content and like asking like what do you think this content we're going to rank for in terms of keywords? What are the main keywords of that article, and see if it matched what I want to be ranking on. Oh yeah,
You mentioned strategy, and Mallory, you said obviously it should not be doing strategy. Just curious, your takes on whether AI can actually help maybe create, deploy, optimize, whether that's your go-to-market strategy, whether that's your positioning or messaging strategy, cost allocation. I don't know, like just share how kind of are you thinking about AI when it comes to actually strategizing.
yeah.
Um, and yeah, Thomas, let's start with you.
Yeah, I mean, when I said that, I didn't mean that. I agree with Mallory actually. I didn't mean like, okay, like what should be my strategy? Give me my
This is where we
strategy, and
fight.
no. I know I do believe that the strategy needs to come from a human, obviously. Like the context that a company evolves in, the competition. I mean, there's so many inputs into a strategy, and depending on the outcome that you want, that obviously it has to be done by a human. I'm just saying like once you have that strategy or like the idea and like kind of the plan, then feeding it to AI to see if you can augment it with something that you not necessarily have thought about, or uh, asking ChatGPT, as Mallory said, for the competition, what are they doing? Maybe like you can do something different and find like uniqueness in that way. It's more like to augment the
Yeah.
strategy than like creating it. I would definitely not trust AI to come up with a good strategy, whether it's for content or anything. Today, now, as models evolve and becomes smarter and smarter and so on, maybe in a year, 10 years from now,
Yeah.
they'd be able to do strategy, but at least right now, I would not trust
Yeah.
AI with strategy.
Maybe when we go from Gen AI, where we already are, like agentic AI, like agents
Yeah,
who
yeah,
can do your entire job, then perhaps. But yes, I agree with you, Thoma. I think, especially for example, if you have your persona, and you have enough information and detail about that, maybe AI can help uh, decide which channels or any local context that it can give you in terms of what you need to layer on top of your existing, I guess, messaging. Mallory, anything to add or subtract from what Thomas said?
Yeah, this is where we just completely start fighting. No, it's. I agree. I mean, it's similar to what Tomas said earlier about like how you use content. I think for strategy and everything with AI, it's the pre and post strategy creation you use it for. So you help maybe do the research beforehand and then optimize it after. One thing that would be amazing, I haven't seen exist yet. If it does, somebody please let me know. Is if you could have your strategy right, and then you have your personas and you put into AI, this is a strategy, these are personas, and these are, say, 5 target accounts that we have or 5 customers we have. If it could say these are the actual legit places or channels that your target audience are at, and this is the content they're clicking the most, you could form that back into it. I think that's probably a way off, but that kind of thing would be amazing to then actually see direct details of what you're missing and whatever it is you're trying to build. But otherwise, nothing to add or remove.
Super. I guess the
I
last
do agree.
question. Last question. I wanted to ask it in a way like, what would you think the biggest impact of AI would be? But maybe I'll ask it slightly differently. What is your hot take on the biggest impact that AI will have? Any time period, whether that's next year or in 5 years or 10 years. Maybe take a few seconds to think about that, but whoever wants to go first.
I can go first.
Yeah.
I think my hot take is right now where AI stands, this might actually get me a lot of hate, I don't know. But I don't think people should be afraid for their jobs, at least in marketing. Even with content marketers, I don't think AI is taking any jobs. It might be easier for entry level to use it or things like that. I don't think it's taking jobs. And I don't think it is the end all be all of you need to use it in what you're doing right now to be successful either. Long term, when it does start creating strategies that me and Tama are coming up with and things like that, yes, I will be afraid for my job. But I think it's only just going to get better. But I also think it's just going to, every company becoming a tech company has been the thing for the last 5 years. I think it's going to be every company is an AI company. I think we're already seeing it in the features they're building and the things they're adding onto it, discussions like this that we're having. And I think it's just going to continue to
Yeah.
grow and make our lives easier.
Yeah.
Pretty vague, but that's kind of how I see it because I can't predict the future.
No, I love it. I think initially the first comment that you made was like AI as an assistant. I think that really resonates, and the only reason you can actually take advantage of an assistant is because you've gone through the rounds of doing all this work. So you can actually now take advantage of the technology. So you have to go through that process to be in a place where you can take advantage of it, then rather than letting AI kind of do the work or lead. I would say. Toma, looks like you have a hotter take, so to speak.
Yeah, I mean similar to Mallory plus another one, but like I think like AI can feel like very scary in times, and like I know it is, and like it's completely new. And I would say like the natural reaction is to do nothing and just see how it plays out, but I would really push people to take action in a way of like embracing it and learning how it can help you. It won't replace you, it will like augment you, and it can make you a better person, well, not person at least, but a better professionally at least better, because it's going to really help you like scale the content, or whether it's actually content or finance or whatever the function, but it can really help you work faster with more outcome.
Great. No, thank you so much for joining and for sharing your views. Maybe lastly, tell the audience where they can find you. Email, LinkedIn, whatever it is. I'm sure some of us would be really glad to kind of get in touch or stay in touch.
You can find me on LinkedIn. Just my name, Thomas Fléchet. I'll usually respond quite quickly on LinkedIn, so feel free to DM me. Would love to chat.
Thank you, Mallory.
Yeah, same on LinkedIn, just Mallory Mullen. I'm probably the only one in existence for either name, so yeah, you can just find me on there. And similar, I also try and respond quite quickly, so feel free to reach out with any questions. Keep the hate to yourselves, and yeah.
Super.
Yeah, and you're actually going to find another Thomas Fléchet, so make sure that it's the one working at Spotify. I have someone. We two in the world, I guess.
Okay. Great. Well, thank you so much for joining again. It was great to have you, and thank you to the audience for joining in and listening in.